You're listening to the Do Something More podcast, and this is episode 15 with Sarah Egbert and putting service in your travel plans. Welcome to the Do Something More podcast, a service-oriented show where we highlight the helpers who inspire us all to do something more. I'm your host, Melissa Draper. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Do Something More podcast. And today we will be talking about thinking about putting service into your travel plans. It's summertime. A lot of us are going on trips or to family reunions or just weekend getaways. And today I wanted to talk about if you've ever thought about putting service into those travel plans with your family, this is the show for you. So I've invited my guest, Sarah Egbert, to be with us here today. So Sarah, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on here, Melissa. I've just always loved and adored you and just look up to you as a friend and mentor and other mother. We have the same kids' ages about, and it's just a joy to be around you. I really appreciate you.
Oh, well, thank you so much for your kind words, Sarah. I think very much the same of you.
Thank you.
I would love to just have you start out by introducing yourself.
Okay. Well, as you mentioned, my name's Sarah Egbert, and I'm a mom to 5 kids. I grew up in Lehigh, then later Alpine, and then we moved down here to Payson after we got married, my husband and I. We've been married coming up on 21 years, which is so fun. And we've got 4 boys and 1 girl, and we love to travel as a family. That is our just passion in life. All of my kids just really enjoy it. I enjoy it. My husband and I love to do family history, and one of the things that we discovered is that I actually have multiple explorer grandfathers, and so I tease that it's in my blood. I tease my husband, it's in my blood. I have to do this. But even in high school, I was friends with every foreign exchange student. I just love people, other cultures, other people, accents. If you have an accent, I'm your best friend. And it's just been a joy for me to travel the world as often as I can, as much as I can. I love exposing my kids to there's just such an education when you travel and you get to meet new people and new languages and new foods and cultures. And it's just such an education for me that I love to share with my children. And we've really enjoyed bringing service into that. We actually have a monthly service that we do as a family. We've established it for years now, where we try to, as a family, come up with ways that we can serve. And because we love to travel, a lot of the times those service opportunities land on times that we're traveling, and we try to plan ahead and come up with some ideas of things we can do as a family. So it's just been really fun. We just really enjoyed traveling and serving together as a family.
I love that. I love how you've obviously made service a part of your family culture. And while I am not near as well traveled as you are, I have very similar thoughts and sentiments. It's wonderful to learn about other cultures and to meet people from other places and see their way of life and learn from them. So I love how you've made that part of your life and your family. And that is exactly why I thought of you for this show. You're sharing your trips very often on social media. It's fun to see the adventures that you take as a family. And so as I thought about this show and incorporating service into travel plans, I was thinking of who I knew that was well-traveled, and you were at the top of the list. I was like, that would be Sarah. So I love that idea you shared of having one service idea a month. But I would love to hear then, what are some of the stories or experiences you've had as a family incorporating and making that work while you've traveled together?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me back up just a little with how that came about, the monthly service.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
One of the things that happened early in our marriage is my husband and I, and this seems completely unrelated, but I promise I'll bring it back around. But my husband one year received a really nice Christmas bonus. And we had only been married a couple of years. At this point, I think we had maybe 1 or 2 kids. And we had always, we knew that all that we have comes from the Lord and our Heavenly Father. And so we wanted to make sure we were using this money in a way that He was pleased with. And so, but one of the things being newly married is we didn't really quite what are the principles of around finance that we've been taught by our prophets or apostles or even in the scriptures. And so we kind of went on a search and tried to find all that we could in regards to how to use abundance, anything that the Lord gives us that's outside of, all that we have is His. And so we came up with 6 at the time principles. We've added a 7th. And they were things from, paying an honest tithe to giving a generous fast offering, to saving for emergencies, for job loss, for a car breakdown, things like that, saving for a rainy day, putting money in savings, to having food storage, and giving to the other, things in the church like humanitarian or Book of Mormon funds or the temple building funds, missionary funds, things like that. And so we started doing these different things. And then, of course, loving your neighbor is a big one. And we, started giving money, like a certain amount every time my husband got a bonus or a raise, we would just up the amount that we were giving in these different areas, these 6 different areas. And then, but we started noticing that, our kids didn't see any of this. This was all done in the background, and it wasn't really creating experiences for our children where we were able to serve in big ways, where they could see it and experience it and feel the joy of service.
From their perspective.
Yes. And so we decided as a family, or my husband and I decided to involve the kids, and we came up with this idea to once a month have a certain amount of money that we as a family would decide how to use that to serve in our community. And often we'll do things, that don't cost money. And so for those listening, there's so many. In fact, one of the things I'm including in this is I put together a document of both free and other, small cost ways that you can serve in the community and help people. And we've done a lot of free stuff when our kids were younger, but we did come up with a budget every month that we could use. And we involved our kids and we asked them, start looking around, look at school, look at people that what are people struggling with? Start having eyes to see needs of others. We wanted them to start looking outside of themselves and seeing what people need in the community, in our neighborhoods, at school, wherever it was. And they started coming up with beautiful ideas of things that we could do. And so some of those that I'm going to share, this is a monthly thing. So like I said, some of them are very local that I'm going to share, but then often we'd be traveling and we'd be like, hey guys, we're going to be in this country. What could we do there? And we come up with ideas with our kids of things that we can do. But one of my favorites is my son Branson. He heard about these mats that you can make with garbage bags or with the Walmart bags or plastic bags. And he really wanted to get involved in that. And so as a family, we actually purchased a bunch of blankets to help, but to go with the mats, but we also, gathered them in our neighborhood. We posted something on Facebook, and people in our neighborhood, Melissa and I are in the same neighborhood, were so generous, and we were able to go and pick up bags and, help make mats and donate mats to homeless people. I think they were also sending some to Africa to help there. And then we bought a bunch of fleece blankets with our allocated money that month as well. And he came up with that idea. And I love that. He ran it, he organized it, he was in charge of it. And we kind of take turns.
And teenagers love to have a cause to be part of and making a difference.
It was just really neat to see him be excited about that and excited about serving and, have his heart in it, something that he was passionate about and just beautiful. It's most of the ones that are my favorite are seeing my kids, the ones where I see them
coming up with their own idea.
Yes, they came up with the idea. Another one, my daughter Addie had a friend. Her parents were going through a divorce, and the father had moved out, and the mom was taking care of 7 kids solo. And just that week, We had seen on Facebook that she had been at the hospital multiple times, one with a child that was suicidal and just going through a really, really hard time with this divorce with her children. And my daughter, she was best friends with one of their children and one of their daughters. And she came up with the idea to make like a sunshine package that would brighten her day. And we filled it with things that she knew her friend loved and candies and little hair things and just earrings and all the things her friend would love, and went and purchased those together. And then we wanted to figure out a way to help the mom. We got all of our kids involved with it. And so as a family, we came up with a couple other ideas to give some money to help hire a house cleaner, because that's often so hard as a 2-parent family to keep a house clean, especially with 7 kids. And so we came up with that idea, like, let's try to take that off the mom's plate, to have a house cleaner come in and help her there. And then with all the medical bills that they were having, we decided to also donate some cash. And we took it over as a family and just like tried to love on them for a minute and just let them know we were there and we love them and knew things were hard. But it was such a neat experience. Like, all of our kids just felt the joy of service in that moment. And it was just neat to see Addie, my daughter, come up with those ideas, and then the other kids think of the mom and want to help her. And it's just was really, really a sweet experience.
Yeah, and a great way to help kids develop that natural empathy.
Yes.
That I think all of us have, but sometimes just to learn how to dial into that and to act on it,
yes,
is something we're all learning. And so I love those experiences you've given your kids to learn how to do that.
It's just so neat to see when they catch that joy of service. It really is neat. But I know this podcast is about travel and service.
Well, that's a great principle, though, that you can definitely take as you're exploring different places. So go ahead and share some of those experiences.
So one of the wonderful opportunities we had as a family is my husband had a job that they asked him to move to India for a little bit. And originally it was supposed to be a 2-year thing, but when we looked into the politics of it, it ended up that it kind of got squashed. His boss wasn't able to do what he wanted to do, and there was some policies at his company where he wasn't able to go. They only allowed like super high up people, VPs and directors to do to move abroad. And so it was for tax purposes and things, but they did let us go over for 3 months before these tax rules and laws came into effect. And so we were able to spend 3 months as a family over in India.
Wow.
And that brought about some just amazing, wonderful opportunities to serve. India is a very different country. It's a third world country and has a lot of poverty. A lot of children are actually used to beg. They maim them, they hurt them. They do it to women as well to bring about more sympathy and compassion. But you have to be really careful giving in these countries that do this, because the money goes to these men that are abusing and maiming these children that have gone homeless, that they take care of, but they're really not, taking care of them in good ways, and they're exploiting these children. And so giving money is not helpful. And so as a family, we talked about this and we came up with some ideas when we saw these kids begging, when we saw these moms with young babies begging on the streets. We knew they wanted money, but we knew that was not a good thing to give. And so what we started doing is we just started buying and carrying different food items and treats and things that kids would like, little balloons that we could give them, or just fun things. Because if you can imagine your day as a child, like having to do this and not, only wanting money, but we tried to give them things that they could enjoy, food and water and treats and little toys or different things like that we could pass out. They often would come to our car at stoplights, or when we were walking around, they'd come up to us. And this was a way that we felt like we could serve and still like bring some joy to the children. So that was one of the things that we tried to do, is we just carried that. We had a car that we rented for the 3 months that we were there. And so we just carried it in the car. We always had candy in our backpacks. We brought a ton over from America. So it was American sweets. They call them sweets, not candy over there. But one of the things we love doing is that we just carry them in our backpacks, and then we'd go to parks and we just pass them out, because there were tons of homeless children at parks there that didn't have shoes on, that didn't have clothes. we ended up donating a lot of our clothes, all the toys. We were able to bring over a container of our personal items when we were there for 3 months. And we each of the kids went through their toys and gave away a lot of their toys. My little Addie was only 2 at the time, and I remember she gave away her favorite doll, and her brothers were
so
like,
sweet.
Addie, you can't do that. That's your favorite. And I said, no, that's wonderful that she wants to do this. And think of all that we have, and we can always get her a new one in America. Like, these kids have nothing, and I'm so proud of her. At 2 years old, she wanted to do that for these children. I think she'd seen enough at 2 years old to know that she had more, and that they didn't have these, and she wanted them to have this special doll of hers. So there's just some sweet experiences. We were able to
That's really neat.
Yeah, it was just neat to be able to do just little simple things. Like, a lot of what we do is just very, very simple, especially when traveling, because you don't often have a lot of room in your luggage.
Right.
But one of the things we always do, still to this day, every trip we go on, we take candy, American candy, usually Starburst, because they're wrapped and they're small and you can give out a lot of them. Suckers are a great one, Dum Dum suckers, just little American candies that a lot of people don't have. We take candy, we take balloons, and we almost always take school supplies because they're small and they easily fit in luggage.
Flat, you can stuff them in there.
Stuff them in the little, little crevices of your suitcase and take them over. And my kids we did a trip to Peru and Costa Rica. And we actually took a bunch of school supplies that time because we had all of us going and we had a lot of room in our luggage. And I think, we each got 2 free check bags. And so we took a lot of luggage. And so we took a bunch of school supplies over, but it was still kind of COVID was going on. We had kind of started opening up in America, but down in Peru and in Costa Rica, all schools were still online. And we didn't know that because our kids were back at school. And so we couldn't go and donate these school items that we brought to a school. But what we did do is, as we were walking around, we'd again carry them in our backpacks. And every time we came across any children, we would give them a package of crayons and a balloon. We'd blow up a balloon for them. And then we would give them a candy, and we just kind of give these things out. And just to see the joy on the faces of these little kids. And normally we try to do it when their parents are there, because we didn't want to don't take candy from strangers and get them in trouble. But we would try to do it. We did a lot of parks where parents were there with their kids, and in Peru and Costa Rica. And so we would give out that stuff there. But
I love that.
That was I wish I could capture, I could have taken a picture of every child's face, because just the joy that you see on these little kids' faces is just priceless. Just when they see you are given a gift.
That's so simple to think of simple things like that you can just have in the car or in a backpack and give and share. And as you shared what you did in India, I think that's often the advice we hear even here in the States. If you're visiting a city and you want to help individuals you see that are homeless on the streets, often we're given that same advice. If you don't know where the money's going to go, it's often better to give them goods.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
Or gift cards or things of that nature. And so that's something any place you visit, you can find someone in need that would be appreciative for something simple, a simple gift.
Absolutely. We also, one of our very favorites was visiting just orphanages. And one time we also did a blind school. We've done multiple orphanages in different countries. And that's just always just a very humbling and sweet experience. One of the orphanages we went to was an all-girls orphanage. And it was actually girls that were coming from very abusive families that had gotten either taken away from their parents because of abuse, or they'd come from, their parents that ended up dying and they were put in this home. But they were orphans for one of those 2 reasons, and they had nothing. They literally, they didn't have beds. They didn't have desks. They all slept on the floor. They did their schoolwork on the floor. They literally had nothing at this orphanage. They did have clothes. They had matching outfits. So they did have at least some nice clothes to wear. Their school uniforms, but they had literally nothing else. Not a bed to sleep on, not a mat to sleep on these hard floors. And we were able to stop and go. And one of the things that I just felt impressed that day, again, just simple things, is I imagine that these children didn't get a lot of physical love.
Mhm.
And I just felt impressed to ask if I could hug each girl. And I bet there were probably between 30 and 50 girls in this orphanage. And some of them were very hesitant at first, but we ended up spending a couple hours there. And we brought in balloons again. We played with the balloons with them. Tried to let's see if we can keep them off the floor, and played some games. And we had some goodies to give them and share with them. But we just played for the most part with them. And by the end of the day, like every single girl had come up and wanted to get a hug. And I would just tell them that they were loved and that God loved them and I loved them, and that they, we came from all the way over in America, and we brought some of our, I do blog books. Because we travel, I try to capture all of our adventures. And at the end of the year, I print them into these books. And I'd taken a couple over to India because we were living there and the kids love to look through them. So I took one of these blog books and was able to show them like what America looked like and what our homes look like. And they loved looking through the pictures and seeing that. But it was just so sweet. Like that was one of my most just tender, beautiful moments with these girls, was just hugging them and just being able to tell them that God loves them and that they are special and beautiful girls, and that they're loved, and
that's a beautiful experience to have.
Yeah.
And I think you bring up a good point, that service often helps to give us perspective.
Yeah.
And gratitude.
Absolutely.
And then an increased desire to share that abundance and that gratitude with others. And I just think you can get perspective and gratitude in different ways, but their service just has a special way of really doing that for everyone involved, whether it's you as an adult or your children.
It really is a blessing that God allows us to have, that joy of service in our lives. And I think any hard day, it makes better when you can just get out. And sometimes, you need to take care of you, and you're the person drowning and you can't get out there and serve. But oftentimes even a little text to somebody when you're having a bad day, somebody worse off that's having a bad day, that even a little moment of service can kind of at least helps me kind of change my mind around and get myself out of my own head and my own misery, to recognizing, that other people are struggling too. And that
makes a difference.
Yeah, that little bit of service can really bring a better feeling into my heart.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I want to go back and just ask you one more question about that. How would you find organizations that were okay with you visiting and coming to do some of those? How would someone go about finding that if they're traveling internationally?
Great question. In India, we actually did a lot of the service over there while we were there. Like, we came up with the ideas, and it came just from asking people. We actually had a driver over in India, and he knew of these other orphanages, and we'd ask some of Adam's coworkers if they knew of places we could go serve. And so a lot of it, and some of it I looked up online, but a lot of the orphanages that really need a lot of help, they're not online, right? They don't have a website. So
organization.
Often if they're online, that they're established, they're usually getting a lot more donations from people than some of these ones that aren't. And so word of mouth was really powerful for us. It helped us get into the orphanages that really needed more help. With the blind school, that was a word of mouth thing. And they did have a link that we could share with people if they wanted to donate with our American friends. So we would often do that too. And, hey, we're going to this orphanages. If you'd like to donate, here's the link, that you can go to. And that helped even people from America, if they wanted to donate, to give and provide meals. Like, that's one of the things we did for the blind schools. We're able to go in and provide some meals for them, pay for some meals, and go eat with them and be with them, and see. They took us on a tour and showed us, how the organization was run and what they did and how they taught these blind children to read and write, in, is it Cyrillic? I'm trying to remember what that's called, but it was just
their language.
Yes, but yeah, a lot of it was word of mouth. I did do research online. We actually were able to go down to an orphanage in Mexico, and that came from some neighbors here in our neighborhood. The Barlows
Right.
knew of the orphanage down there. So when we were down there, we were able to go to that orphanage. So a lot of it's just been word of mouth that we've heard about, but you can always get online and find different ways to serve. Just Serve, I think, also is abroad in
Yes.
certain places as well. It's not everywhere, but
Right.
often you can look on there
And
to
see
find
yeah.
ways to serve.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned Just Serve because it's great to use for your own area to find service.
Absolutely.
But if you are traveling, you can put in any zip code or city on there and see if there are organizations in need of either donations or service or things that you can attend. So yeah,
Yes.
that's a great tool for anyone to use.
With the schools that we were trying to donate to, we just looked them up once we got there. We just saw, okay, we're in the city, what schools are nearby that are elementary schools, and we went to donate to several, and that's when we discovered they were all closed. Like all of Costa Rica's schools were closed, all of Peru's schools were closed. And so yeah, in that case, we just had to get creative, and you can make the best of plans, and sometimes you just have to be flexible and adjust. And
right.
But yeah, a lot of the times it was just kind of like, we want to do this. Let's take this stuff over. We'll go find a school once we get there, ask around, or the people that you Airbnb to will often have great feedback and ideas. You can ask them, like, what needs do you have in your community? What can we bring to help and do? And just reaching out to those type of people. And looking online, of course, too. But
yeah. Well, you also shared with me some other simple ideas, especially now if someone's feeling overwhelmed and thinking, I can't do an orphanage. There's always somewhere you can start, or there might be other things that they feel compelled to do. So do you mind just sharing some more? I just thought some of those simple ideas
absolutely
of when you've traveled.
Yes,
yeah, just sharing some of those.
And these are also on that link that I told you about.
Right,
I created a spreadsheet.
Yeah, I'll share that in the show notes.
Yes, that you guys can all go out, and they've got some of the other kind of ways that we've helped and served in our communities. One of my favorite stories was, it's actually just my husband and I, and it was here locally. But one night, my husband was so cute, and he planned this little like romantic go up the canyon. He was going to put on a chick flick for me on a projector, on a screen or a sheet that he was going to bring, and had this kind of cute night prepared for us. And we went to dinner first here at a local Thai place. And when we walked in, we noticed that there was no one there to seat us. And so we heard the owner from the back go, just sit wherever you want. So we went and sat down, and then she came out a few minutes later and she gave us, the server's pad, and she's like, just write down what you want. Go, the water's over here. So we asked her, we're like, are you here alone? And we came to find out that all of her staff had called in sick that night. And she was running the entire restaurant alone. And there were quite a few people. We started noticing there were other people there that didn't have water. And so my husband and I just were like, this is like perfect. Like we can relive our high school days, and, and we both served, worked at restaurants. And so we actually loved it. And so we just got up, we got our own waters. We went and got other people water that didn't have it. And then people started coming in, we started taking their orders, and we were having such a good time that we ended up staying the whole night until she closed, and just loved it. Like, it was one of our best date nights ever.
Yeah.
And
so fun.
Just looking for those little opportunities when they present themselves is huge. But
being willing to say yes to them.
Yes.
In the moment. That's great. I love it.
Let's see. I had a couple other ones here as well. Schools is a big one. So in Fiji, we were able to go to an elementary school and play with the kids and pass out school supplies and balloons and treats. And we loved one of the things we love to do is we'll tape up coins to vending machines. Oh. So we'll go and put them on, vending machines for people, or we'll go to a laundromat and, buy some wash detergent. Yes, thank you. I was having a brain a brain moment there, but some detergent. So we'll take those in. We just like doing little things like that.
I love that.
We've sent money to African villages during COVID when we heard of a village that was starving because they couldn't work and they couldn't get food in. And there was a gentleman that was going into these villages and taking them food. And that was, just these little things that you hear about. We'd heard from a friend that they were helping. And we're like, how can we help too? And so as a family, we decided to do that one month.
Yeah. I loved when you shared if you're visiting a beach or a campground about just taking bags and picking up garbage and beautifying the space.
Yes, we love doing that one. That's an easy, free one to do where you can, a lot of times you're visiting beaches when you're traveling, you're going on hikes to beautiful places, you're walking down streets to see cultural things, and there is so much you can do. We started carrying around plastic bags, and you can do this locally. You can do it while traveling. That's a wonderful one that we do. I had a whole thing of like the free.
That's
Let me get to that here because I did want to talk about lots of free things that you can do. We've gone to grocery stores and gathered carts. And sometimes, one of the best ones that we love to do is when people are traveling, you're usually going to these very touristy sites, right? And everyone's taking pictures. And a lot of times a service that you can do, like we'll just say, okay, everyone go find somebody to take their picture. Like we'll take family pictures for people, right? That are wanting to get that perfect shot.
Right.
They're trying to like take it and it's really awkward.
With everybody's face in there.
Right, with their families. And so we'll just say, okay, today is like, let's look for people that need help taking pictures.
Oh, I love that.
And we'll do that.
That is a service. If you look forward to visiting a spot for years, you do want that great picture, and it can be nerve-wracking sometimes to ask someone to take it for you. So that's so simple and great.
We had the opportunity to go to Peru a couple of years ago while we were, and go to Machu Picchu, and of course that is an iconic place to get a family picture, and so yes, those places that are, these people really want that perfect picture and want the whole family in. It is a service. Like we were so grateful for people that took pictures of our family when we were there. We thankfully had a guide and he was able to take a lot of pictures for us, but those are precious memories.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's just those little things that you can do.
Great idea.
One of the ones that we love to do is we'll just print out little papers and that say, you are important. You are thought about, you are cared for, you are loved, and we put them on people's cars. That's one that we've loved doing, and then we kind of watch in the background to see their faces, when they see them.
Especially at a place like a national park where someone might have been a little frustrated to find that parking spot. You can instantly brighten their day.
Exactly.
With a little note and a little
free things. One of the ideas that I heard of that a young woman did is she would go and post like things like that, kind of those little messages of love on places. I think she lived in a big city and there was a bridge there that a lot of people committed suicide on. And I heard about this idea where she had actually saved multiple lives. Like people, like the news, it was a news story, eventually got like put on the news. I can't remember. I think that's where I watched it is, on Facebook, like a little news article, but she posted these little like messages of love all over this bridge where a lot of people were committing suicide. And they actually were able to, like after the story was posted, several people got on and said, she saved my life. Like I saw that note and it changed my mind. And I just think there's so many little small ways that when we think about it, we can serve.
Yeah, that story is a great reminder that the power of words, that they really are a service.
They really are. And another one that I heard about that I've been wanting to do, either, just as it was actually parents that did this, but I think you could do it as a family as well. But they got these either t-shirts or signs, I'm trying to remember, but they went to a college campus and they just said free hugs. And gave all these college students that were, probably away from home for the first time, like hugs, free hugs from
like a motherly or fatherly hug.
Yes, motherly and fatherly hugs, free hugs from a mom, free hugs from a dad, something like that. And they just gave these, anybody that wanted them could come get a hug. And they were shocked by how many people came and wanted a hug. And I just thought, and I'm a hugger. I
Right.
love hugging. So I'm like,
You would
I want to
probably
do
need
that.
to be a hugger to do that one.
Yes, you definitely would probably need to have that skill or that love. But there's just so many beautiful ideas out there to go and serve. And hopefully that little list that I've come up with, some of them are things we've done. Some of them are ones I've heard about that I've wanted to do. Some of the ones I Googled on the internet that are great ways that we can go serve. But those are just some of there's so many. And they're very simple, just wonderful things that you can do.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for coming and sharing some of these wonderful ideas and some of the great experiences that your own family has had in trying to make service an integral part of your family and also your travel. So would you like to end with any words of encouragement and advice for anyone that's still on the fence or is wanting to make service part of their travel plans? Any final words you want to give them?
You know, as I was preparing for this, one of the things I remember as a young mom is just feeling absolutely exhausted. And I didn't have a lot to give. And one of the things I just wanted to, for the moms out there, the moms of these little kids, is I just wanted to let you know you are serving. I remember, feeling bad that I wasn't getting outside of my home and doing service. And one of the things that I realized later in life is that, I think moms, we're really hard on ourselves and we, often don't think we're enough and we're doing enough. And one of the things that hit me later in life is how much motherhood is like what the Savior did when he was on earth. And it didn't hit me back when I was a young mom. I wish I had made the connection then, but later in life, I realized that just as the Savior washed the feet of his disciples, as a young mom, I was washing the feet of my little babies every day. And just as the Savior fed 5,000, that I had more than fed 5,000 meals to my little ones.
Right.
And just as the Savior could turn water into wine, I had made Kool-Aid, or I had, taken the last 3 things in my fridge that I had because I didn't have time to run to a grocery store because 3 of my kids were homesick and throwing up, and I'd made miracles happen out of the 3 things in my grocery store. And so I just wanted to let moms know, young moms know, that there are times and seasons, and you are serving in beautiful, wonderful, Christ-like ways. You are literally Christ's hands upon the earth right now. And there will be a season. If right now getting out and doing service seems overwhelming or hard, just know that time will come that you are serving now, and the time will come when you can do more outside the home, but you are exactly where you need to be right now. And I just honor those young moms and love them, and just wish I could hug them all because it's such a difficult time of life. And just know you're doing so much, and you're doing better than you think, and you are serving in beautiful ways. So if this is overwhelming, just know your time will come.
Yeah. Yeah, that's been a big theme on this podcast, is we do not want to have the goal of creating overwhelm at all. It's to realize the good things that we are already doing, and to just give us ideas and inspiration for the good things we already feel pulled to do.
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
And all of us have those things, and we can use the ideas and inspiration from others not to help us feel like we're not enough, but to lift us and to help
motivate us and
to motivate us.
Inspire. That's one of the things I've loved about your podcast. I've been listening in, and I have just loved what people are sharing. And I do feel so inspired by these stories. And I'm so grateful that you're doing this work to give us ideas to serve more and in different ways, and in ways that feel our souls and that are in line with our gifts and our talents that God has given us, because we're all different, and we can all serve in very different but beautiful ways. And we don't need to compare ourselves to others,
no comparison.
But find the ways that do inspire us, that do feel like, oh, I would love to do that, like the hugger, right? I would love to do that. And I had never thought of that before.
Right.
And
yeah.
so
Yeah.
I love.
And if you're not a hugger, to say, nope, that one's not for me.
Right.
But the next idea might be
my
for
mother-in-law,
me.
and I know your mother, or I think, is it your mother and mother-in-law that I think one of your podcasts was her work that she does quilting.
Oh, it's my mother-in-law.
Yes.
Yeah.
And my mother-in-law is the same. And I do not have that gift. And,
Right.
but we all can serve in such different, beautiful, unique ways. And,
Right.
and that's the beauty. That's just so wonderful that we can do that.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. And I hope those listening have been inspired for some simple ideas on how they can do some service with their families this summer and put it part of their travel plan. So thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you, Melissa.
That concludes my interview with Sarah Egbert. And I just love Sarah. And I'm sure after listening to that interview, many of you love her as well. And I loved the plethora of ideas that she had to share. So many different ideas that you can use if you have thought about wanting to serve while you're traveling, while you're on vacation, or spending time with family. I know many times, even for family reunions or those types of things, we like to look for service ideas, and she gave so many for all of those ideas. I felt myself so inspired after recording this episode with her to go look at my trips coming up with my family and see the simple ways we could incorporate some of these ideas that she shared with us. So I hope you were inspired too. I hope you got some ideas. And if you were listening to this episode, she shared some ideas. I'm going to leave a link to of some things that she listed, and also a link to Just Serve that was mentioned earlier in the podcast as well. So if you enjoyed this episode and there's someone else you thought of that might enjoy all these service ideas that Sarah shared with us, please share this podcast episode with them. And again, if you've been listening to the podcast, you enjoy what you're hearing here, leave us a review or follow us on any of the listening apps that you're choosing to listen with. So great ideas for our service and travel this summer. And thank you so much for being here. I'll see you next time.